DOE teacher, done a gamut, done a range, I've actually taught 6th grade. Let's not count 5th grade. 6th grade to 12th grade for 16 and a half, 17 years. So I've been here, done that, seen the light, seen the dark. I was on Zoom with you. So, welcome. I'm the Director of Education for New York Conservatory of Dramatic Arts. This is Sara Buffamanti. She's the Artistic Director of New York Conservatory of Dramatic Arts. This is Kris Thor. He runs new media. And he also runs. We are here to give an offering. I remember being a teacher and feeling like I came in with a lot of knowledge, and I was always looking for the ideas that really tickled my fancy, that were slightly higher order, somewhat of like going to aspirational in terms of career readiness, giving my room a sense of what I experienced as a student, which was conservatory training, right? So this is an offering for you to bring in some ideas, whether they feel simple, whether they feel complex, a little bit of an air of what you can do with a simple kernel of an action, and also giving ideas in terms of where you can go with different mediums of acting. Does that make sense? So I'm going to ask all of you to get up. And we're going to start with a warm-up. And it's going to be great. Come on, make an oblong. Figure out that.
Come this way, come in front of this camera. Okay. And I do want to start this by saying it is possible to do this little ritual seated if students need that for whatever reason. So I just want to offer that to everybody in the room as well. Yes, seated is possible. Hi, again, I'm Sara. When I first got out of graduate school, I was a long-term substitute teacher in the DOE for about 5 years. I taught pre-K to 6th grade, and then I came here and I taught here until 2017, and then somehow I ended up at LaGuardia High School of the Performing Arts for 3 years during the pandemic, which was pretty wild, and now I'm back here as the artistic director. So I only bring that up in that what I'm about to offer, I do this with our college-age students, but I also did this at LaGuardia, and I've also done variations of this with 7th graders and 8th graders, and I've also done it with younger students than that. So feel free. This is a long sort of scripted version of this. You can take any element of it. The only thing I would say is there is an order and a progression that is the way it is for a reason, and I'll try to explain why that is. This is kind of coming from the land of Linklater. I'm a Linklater designated voice teacher. It's kind of coming from the land of the viewpoints, Feldenkrais, Alexander. It's like a big poo-poo platter. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I like to root this in like the very simple sort of question to students. Have you ever had a director say to you, get out of your head, you're in your own way? And most students in that moment will be like, I hate that! Like, what does that mean? How do I do that? Like, I don't like getting a directive to not do something. And I agree with them. As a creative person, that is not the directive I want. I understand you don't want me to do what I'm doing. What would you like me to do instead? So this is an offering in terms of when you start a class. I call it a ritual. I make a joke. It's not a cult. A ritual is simply a series of steps that we follow, and we do it all the time in the same way in order to bring us into our community and into the present moment. Okay? To get out of your head, you have 4 options. You can get into your body, and by into, I mean interested. The teenage students are always like, get into my body. Get into your breath, get into your environment, and then this is the one that really makes them laugh, or get into each other. And by into, I mean interested in and concentrating on. okay? So that's what we're gonna do, all right? So I think of this body as a house. All of our stories as actors come through the body and the voice and the breath. So before we even start talking about a moment before, this is the moment before the moment before. We need to prime this instrument so that everything can come through it fully without the thoughts up in our head on the right-hand side of our brain telling us that they're good, bad, right, or wrong. Okay? So let's start with our feet. Simply look down. And first of all, just notice the distance on either side of your body and see if we can equalize it so that you have the same amount of space on either side. And then after that, look at the space in between your feet and take two fists like so and simply put them together. And then bending your knees as much as you need to accomplish this, try to put those two fists in between your feet. And if there's not enough room, move the feet apart. And if there's too much room, bring them in until the insides of the feet are touching the outsides of the fists. And then come back up to standing. And see what it's like to actually live with your feet in the position that they were designed to be in, which is directly out of the hip sockets. And if you want to bring science into that, you can talk about skeletons hanging in the chemistry lab. They're not hanging like this. They're not hanging like this. This is where the feet were designed to be. We're teaching this in terms of maximum effect for minimal effort. As actors, we have to stand for long periods of time. If the foundation of the house is out of alignment, everything on top of it has to work harder in some way. So our feet are under our hips. We come up a little bit higher in the house to the knees. Give the knees a nice deep bend. That is one extreme. Now push them back until they lock. And I really do want to ask you to live in the discomfort of this, which is something that our students need to practice. Living in the discomfort, yes? So notice the chain reaction. The thighs are engaged, maybe the buttocks, the belly, possibly even your back teeth are clenching together. As a result, you are now in a state of freeze. Deer in the headlights, nothing is gonna happen. You cannot fight, you cannot flight, okay? Bring the hands together, warm them up. Feel actual warmth. We're not dealing with the imaginary right now, we're dealing with the real. Take that warmth from the hands and now transfer them to the knees. And let the warmth of the hands be the thing that encourages the knees to thaw, to soften, to drip down the shins like slivers of ice on a warm day. And now the tricky part is, can you come back up to standing without locking the knees again? All right? Good. So we have our feet, which are in the earth, they're under our hips. We have our soft knees. Bring the hands now to your lower back, upper buttocks, and simply sweep down that lower back 3 times to get an awareness of this heavy sacral bone and iliac bones at the base of the spine. This is a good way to think of groundedness and being connected to this place in the body. So if I'm running, I drop anchor to stop as opposed to leading with the chest and having to grab that up, all right? So my feet are in the earth, my knees are soft, my tailbone is long. I can drop anchor as a means of stopping. Take those hands now and actually place them on the lower belly. With students, I find the word relax to be tricky. I think it also is a bit ableist. My husband has CP. I can't tell the man to relax. His muscles don't do that. What I can do is ask for a softening, yes? So in this moment, could you allow your belly to soften into your hands slightly? That gives room in terms of degrees of release based on who's actually in the room with you. To encourage that softening even more, use the hands to give the belly a little shake. Now keep shaking and actually go to your thoughts for a moment. If there's anything you're thinking about right now that is not useful to the work we're doing in this room today, you have an opportunity to express that safely instead of suppressing it through a nice open sigh of relief. I am going to do it, and then I invite you to do it. Great. Now let the arms float back down to the side. Feel your feet in the middle. Knees soft, tailbone dropped, belly relaxed. Coming up a little bit higher now, take 2 hands and place them on your beating heart. Your heart is on the left-hand side. I have to remind myself. Yes. Close your eyes. For 20 seconds, your only job on this planet is to try to feel your heart beating under your hands. Sometimes the simple recognition that the heart is beating is enough to bring somebody into the present moment. It's also a beautiful way to introduce the idea of an iambic pentameter if you're working in Shakespeare. I am, I am, I am, I am. Okay. Go ahead and open your eyes. Take those two hands and spread them away from each other until you're touching your shoulder blades. This is another big ask. We're opening up the heart center, the solar plexus, that nerve bundle sitting on top of the diaphragm that alerts you to things that have to do with life and death need. We feel flutters when we fall in love. We feel the pang when we feel hungry. We feel when we're about to go over the edge of the roller coaster. There's a whole conversation that happens in this place in the body. And that's the big reason why most New Yorkers walk around like this all day. If our ribs are collapsed on that space, we feel less. And therefore, we're in more control of our surroundings. But as actors, it's very important to keep this space open so that we're permeable and so that something can happen to us. Go ahead and float those arms back down and just see what it's like to live with feet in the earth, soft knees, soft belly, open heart. Coming up to the lips, lick your lips. Part them slightly. Give them a smack. Give them a flutter. So all of that is just to wake up lip awareness. Now part them again, and I'm going to ask, and it's a big ask, that for 20 seconds you see what it's like to no longer breathe through your nose. I know. So instead, I'm going to give you something to focus on that will make this a little less bizarre. Close your eyes and simply pay attention to temperature. Cool air goes through your lips on the way in. Warm air comes back out through your lips on the way out. And see if you can keep the belly soft as you do this. And just notice, breathing through the mouth versus the nose. How does it feel? What does it bring up? Comfortable, uncomfortable? Notice. Open your eyes. Coming a little bit higher now. Your neck and the crown of your head. Simply picture on the top of your head a golden band, or a magical yarmulke, or a tractor beam that pulls you up and out of your torso slightly, giving you a sense of energy that connects you to the heavens or whatever you think is up there above. We're not lifting the chin to do this. The length comes through the back of the neck, out through the crown. So your physical body stops here, but you keep going in terms of your presence. Now notice if you close your mouth and see if you can part your lips again and breathe. And is your heart open? And is your belly soft? And are your knees relaxed? And do you still feel the fullness of your feet in the earth? Good. In this last moment, look through the circle to an opposite wall or something that is in the room, in the environment. And in order to practice curiosity and to wake up your off-camera focus, the camera loves to watch you think, and it can tell the difference between staring versus seeing. I'm looking at a gray wall right now. I'm going to ask myself a question about it. What color was that wall in 1968? Who painted it? Was it there? What was this building used for before it was an acting school? Let your mind go. Live in a state of many questions. And then part your lips again and breathe and see how that affects you on a cellular emotional level in relationship to your thoughts. Now, in order to open up the pathway between your brain, your spine, and your limbs so that you can follow your physical impulses, on my clap, let your head and neck fall heavily forward so you're seeing your feet again. Up. On my next clap, we're gonna open up the spaces in between the spine so that those impulses flow more freely in the work we're about to do next. Take 10 very slow counts to drop through the vertebra of your spine, go as far as you can within the constraints of your body. At the end, you'll be an upside down hanging skeleton. Take all 10 counts on my clap, do it with me. Up, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, release. Give your head a little shake, yes. A little shake, no. You've got one more chance. Soften your belly, part your lips, feed in and let go of another side and relieve yourself of whatever. And now coming back to our adult selves, let's see what's changed. Up, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, arrive. Feet are on the earth, knees are soft. Belly's relaxed, tailbones drop, heart is open, lips are parted, breath is flowing, the back of the neck is long. And now I invite you in this moment to do what you did with the architecture of the room with each other. Look across the circle. Part your lips. Many of you went back to nose breathing. See somebody. Anybody. And in that moment, silently ask yourself a question about them. You're never going to ask it, so make it a good one. And just notice that in this moment, somebody might be doing that about you. And in that moment of noticing, notice what your body might be doing to prevent that from happening. Are your feet still in the earth? Are your knees still soft? Is your belly still relaxed? How's your heart? What's going on with the back of your neck? Did you go back to nose breathing? If you did, it's okay. Just notice it and maybe try the opposite. Good. And shake out through one foot and another foot. And in this moment, feel free to sit down, turn to somebody who's nearby, and have a little moment of discussion. And I like to focus discussions about warm-ups on change. Compared to where you were at when you walked in this room 10 minutes ago, what do you notice has changed with regards to the body, the breath, your focus, your imagination, your relationship to others or the environment? Have a little gab. Is there anything, are there any takeaways? Anything that can go back to the classroom or anything that is a question or simply a noticing? Yeah.
How do you swallow when you speak to you?
You just do. If breathing through your mouth is not a part of your everyday practice, it is going to take some getting used to with regards to coordination of basic bodily functions. The not swallowing is actually your body holding up a red flag that says, why are you doing this? Please go back to doing what we're comfortable doing. This is dangerous, so I'm not going to let you swallow right now until you stop. I'm being very serious about it. It's called a structured system of survival. Anytime we ask our body to do something that is out of the norm, it goes into a state of chaos for a second, and it's going to get you to try to stop it, and you really can't. So, yeah.
Like I was salivating even more.
Yes, you were. You were.
Do not want to
Yes.
do the habit.
It will self-regulate. I think it takes 17 times or something for an old habit to be replaced. 21. Yeah, so I know, the breath thing is always the thing. So I'm gonna state this because I don't like the ooey-gooey, hippy-dippy stuff with voice work. We breathe different ways for different reasons, okay? When I'm running, I would not breathe through my mouth. If I am in yoga class, I am actively breathing through my nose because breathing through the nose is a calming breath for the nervous system. For acting, to me, it makes more sense to breathe through the mouth for a couple of reasons. One, when you breathe through the mouth, the breath goes down. When the breath goes down, the diaphragm goes down and all the organs go down as a result of that. You have a second brain in your gut called the enteric nervous system that is solely there for processing of emotion. You feel something in your gut, you have a gut reaction in that brain first, and then this brain tells you what to do about it. I want to murder somebody, don't murder somebody. Yeah? But as we get older, we sort of disconnect from this feeling place in the body for the purposes of socialization and getting through the world. But for actors, we need to reactivate that if we want to have connection to emotional life. So breathing down through the mouth serves that. On an even more basic level, I don't talk through my nose. So why would I breathe through it on the way in? It actually puts in an additional step in terms of effective communication with my partner. My lips are parted. While you're talking, I'm breathing in what you're saying to me. It is affecting me. I am gathering information, and then immediately I speak back to you, yes, so that it is a circular action of communication. If the lips are closed while your partner's talking, number one, you're not taking them in, but you're adding this additional step of the process of the opening of the mouth. And then even more detrimental, if you're breathing your partner in through your nose, you're sending breath up to that right brain part that is about good, bad, right, or wrong, as opposed to this immediate sort of connection to need and want.
My most frustrating question was this: how do I remember all this work? Open your mouth and breathe.
Yeah.
Just inhale and just take in the words.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it will come in pretty clear because it's just not the natural way that, or it's not the primal, instinctive way to take in the breath. But the minute that you part your lips, you actually do, like your senses kick in. Turn around.
Also, once we get into on-camera work, there's a big difference between an actor whose lips are closed and whose lips are open. That's a big gesture on camera, particularly in close-up. So in that situation, it has to be a choice. That also takes into consideration what's going on camera and in the story. But I would say as a practice and a habit in a voice and speech class, it's an offering, you know, and I would say don't be too serious about it. If you see somebody is going back to nose breathing, just say, did you notice that? Most of the time students will be like, yes, it feels so awkward, I feel so vulnerable, or they'll say things like, it's disgusting, like the air is dirty, or it makes me look stupid. Like there are a million reasons why we get conditioned out of breathing through our mouths, but if you look at a baby or a small kid, that's how they breathe. It's a choice to go to the nose. So yeah. What else? About any element of it beyond the breath work.
I think that stillness is so important. It's like a practice that I'm on in my classroom, like about learning how to be still and just be there in the moment. And so like it brought me back to that. And so I think it's very hard for I work with young kids, but it's very hard for them to honor that. And so like it's part of our warm-up routine and practice, like to honor stillness in my room. So like it brought me back to that. So I appreciated that a lot.
Cool. And stillness is rough. I think giving tasks to be completed in stillness or balancing out the two is really helpful. That before I ask you to just be still, I'm giving you things to do. Yes, in service of stillness. Okay, moving on. All right, so we're going to transition now to, this is called physical and vocal dynamics, and I want to set it up. We're going to focus more on the physical today. Dynamics are really about marking moments of change. Yes, marking moments of change in story. So I know a character is going through something or something has shifted with them in terms of tactic or attention or emotional life because maybe they go from speaking at a medium volume to suddenly speaking very loudly. That is a shift of the vocal dynamic. It marks change. Physically, I might be moving at a medium tempo and then all of a sudden the subway is coming and I'm late, so I start to run. That is a physical dynamic shift, yes? I'm speeding up because there is urgency and need for me to get to the train. So I want to set it up that all of this that we are about to do is in service of story, right? But before we get to that, I need you just sitting where you are right now, and you can do this in relationship to a prop or an object that you have nearby you, or this could just be a gesture, something that is done without any sort of prop or physical object. Can everybody take about 1 minute to create a simple action that has a clear beginning, middle, and end? It's really important that the action has a beginning, middle, and end, and that it is repeatable. It could be as simple as I begin in a somewhat neutral position. I put my hair behind my ears, that's the middle, there's the end. Yes? It could be that I take a sip of my coffee. It could be that I fix something on me or I scratch myself. It could be I stand up, look behind me, and sit back down. Simple, all right? Take a minute to come up with that for yourself. It can, if you choose to. It can. In our last session, somebody put on some chapstick. That was their simple action. Yeah. But it could be twisting your wedding ring.
The most important bit is that it's repeatable.
Yeah. So rehearse it a couple times so you're not thinking about it.
You're at about 30 seconds.
Good. All right. So to make sure we're all going to be doing this at the same time so that I'm clear about when you've come to the end of your action, I'd like to get everybody into a moment of seated SOTS, S-O-T-S, which is again just this idea of the moment before the moment before, okay? So if you have an object, put it nearby so you can get it, okay? Feel your feet. If you're sitting on the ground, don't worry about this first directive. If you're in a chair, take a moment and actually really feel your sits bones on whatever object you're seated on. Uncross legs right now. Bring your feet right under your hips. Place your hands on your upper thighs. Make sure your spine is long right now as opposed to collapse because that tells a story, yes, with regards to shape. Part your lips so that you're breathing. See if you can soften your belly a bit. And whatever you're looking at right now, come into that state of curiosity by asking a simple question about what you're seeing. On my clap, please perform your action with a clear beginning, middle, and end at a tempo you would consider to be medium. And when you're done, come back to this position. Up. All right. On my next clap, same action, but please perform it at a tempo you would consider to be slow. Up. On my next clap, try it at a tempo you would consider to be fast. Up. One more time, even faster, and try to breathe through your mouth at the same time. See what happens. Up. Okay. Kris, I'm gonna let you pick.
I'm gonna go black. With the glass?
Oh, no. So what I'm going to encourage is first, let's see the performance of it. Yes?
Yes.
Do you want to lead in terms of duration?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So let's just be audience towards her.
So this is very important. Theater, yes. Film. So right now, yes. But this is great, yeah? So right now, we're looking at the actual performance in real time and space. That is an image of a human being that has been crafted carefully in relationship to a camera. Cool?
Yes.
Not you, image of you.
Yes, no, that's what scares me.
Yes, yes, image of you.
Scare away.
Okay, so let's start again at medium. And let's say a medium tempo is an everyday tempo. It's what human beings gravitate towards most. Up. Okay. Slow. Up.
Champagne's right there. Oh, Friar, thank you so much for building. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm going to ask you to go even slower and see what happens if you breathe through your mouth as you do.
It's mouth breathing.
I know.
Funny
So-
faces.
You're my favorite.
Thank you.
You are.
Alright.
Slow. Very slow.
Okay.
Up. You're killing it. Keep going. And good. And keep breathing. Fast. Hut.
I didn't breathe through my mouth.
Yeah, that's cool.
I gotta pull my sleeves up now.
Okay, you want to do one more? Okay.
Hold on. I feel like a panting dog.
Okay. Fast.
I didn't breathe at all.
And that's okay. You noticed. Cool.
And
So,
just for, you pick the speed, but just for awareness, think about, I'm like the first row of your audience, just an awareness.
Okay.
In terms of like thinking
You are?
theater, yes.
Okay.
I'm your first row.
as opposed to this beat.
Yeah, I was using this
That's
as my
right in
audience.
front of you.
So
Yeah.
I'm the orchestra seat.
Great.
Let's do one more, but I'm gonna switch it up on you.
Oh, okay.
So we've been playing with tempo, how fast or how slow you do something. There's also this thing called duration, which is the overall length of time which any action occurs. The action could take 10 seconds, but within that, there could be fast, there could be slow, there could be medium. So what if we try this? Hands come to the glasses fast.
Okay.
Take the glasses off slow.
Okay. Fast, slow. Gotcha.
Do the eye stuff.
Yeah.
Medium.
All right.
Let's see. Now, audience, I don't know if you're noticing this
I'm just
yet.
gonna do this.
Can I keep my focus?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
I'll hold
Behind you? I just didn't know if I was looking at.
No, but I'll.
Okay, cool.
I'll be
Okay,
with
let's do this and then we're gonna have a little conversation about story. All right. You got your duration?
Fast, fast, slow, wait, fast, slow, medium?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
gotcha.
Okay, ready? Up.
I don't remember what my last part was supposed to
I don't
be.
know what it was either, but it was compelling to watch, so I don't care. So, the point of this has to do with this idea of story. On a very baseline level, what are some definitions that we have of story in the room? What's a story?
Beginning, middle, and end.
Okay, beginning, middle, and end. What else? What is a story?
Something with a problem.
Something with a problem, okay. A problem, yeah.
Relationships.
Okay, relationships can lead to story.
It's an arc or change.
An arc, a change. Okay. A narrative.
Something happens.
Yeah, somebody in the other room said something happens, and I think I'm like, let's go with that. Okay, something happens. In this case, an action. No given circumstances, no relationships, no who, where, when, what, how, or why in discussion. Simply based on the action and the speed at which it was performed, stories started to happen. And I say that because story does not necessarily happen on the page or in terms of the writer. Story happens in the minds of the audience. We create story. Writers can point towards story, actors can make choices that serve story, but ultimately story is being created in the mind of the audience. So my question for you is, simply based on an action in relationship to different tempos, what stories started to manifest for you? I'll tell you, the first one with the very slow, I thought we were in like American Psycho.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, I heard like Susudio playing in the background, and it was like the revving up to go out on a
Stop giving my
killing
secret
spree.
away, thank you.
All right, but that's me. So you're gonna notice now other people might have had totally different experiences of story in relationship to tempo and duration. So what were they?
Her eyes are tired, she needs an eye break.
Okay.
She's been reading too much.
Which tempo was it?
Which tempo?
The one where it was mixed, fast, then slow.
Okay, so the one where we played with duration and different tempos within it. A student or somebody who's been reading too much, what time of day was it for you?
Night.
Nighttime. Okay, so suddenly we have place, we have character, we have circumstance. Simply for tempo. Okay, what else? Yeah.
The mixed one, I thought it was like on the subway, you think you see somebody, take your eye off that. It's not who you think you see, the judge.
Cool.
The extremely slow one for me, for some reason, was absolutely someone who needed to go identify the body of a loved one.
Yes.
It was so, I got so emotional during that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was like an interruption, like she was about to do something and then something paused, like a thought or a memory or something was happening and that overpowered her to go slow.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was her grandmother's glasses.
I actually saw
Like it was like your like when the slow happened.
Right.
The next one. I think the next one.
But that's so beautiful too, because again, in terms of like how do we synthesize story, we try to relate it to our own experience of the world and being alive. So that particular gesture has resonance with you in a way that it doesn't with me in some way. Okay, but again, it was the slowness of it. Anything else? Yeah.
I felt more like I was watching to see if she's breathing out of her mouth. I was like, no, she's not doing it yet. And oh yeah, there she goes.
All right. So there is something about slow tempos that speak more more to a moment of thinking, reflection, or revelation in some way, which I think is important once we get onto the camera, okay? I just want to point out, nobody really said anything about medium. So I think that's telling. I think there's a place for medium in theater and on camera, but maybe not in a moment where you want to reveal something that has been hidden, in a moment of big change for a character, in a moment of revelation, or in a moment of high stakes. Maybe then we kind of try to get away from medium in terms of our actions. However, you also have to deal with this beast right here.
This beast.
Yes.
Just even taking that, you were giving more of an energy towards me, right? I was your nonverbal partner in that. I will encourage you, and I will still, in some regards, say, put a person right here.
Will do.
Yeah?
You want the person not at the left. I've never done film stuff, so this is very new to me. So above the camera where you're pointing as opposed to right into the lens.
Right. I mean, it depends. It depends on what
The director wants?
Yes. Okay. Go for it.
Well, so one of the things in physical and local dynamics I work on, and I work a lot in theater and film, is to ask this question of, like, what does it mean when it's in here? You know what I mean? Because so often in this room we can feel what the performer is doing, but then there's a huge amount of assumptions that it's going to be the same thing once it's framed inside of this, because all that matters is what's inside of this box, right? We have no idea what's happening. And for instance, so we're going to just do a little bit just in terms of same questions, right? So watch and really try to say, what is the actual story of what's happening on that, in that frame? So can we just do it one more time?
Can I ask one clarifying question?
Absolutely.
I'm just doing the action. I shouldn't be putting anything behind this other than doing my action, correct?
So this is what I want to say to you. It will come.
Well, right.
Yeah, and if it does come, you can breathe into it, but you don't
plan it.
You don't need to telegraph that to us.
Right.
Just trust that the tempo and the action is enough.
And I will say, go back to what the warm-up did for you,
Yes.
right? We just did all this stuff to sort of activate solar, activate breath. Thought is natural to come.
Can I just ask a logistical question?
Yeah.
Are we?
Watch this.
So now, we are making the pivot.
We're making the pivot now. Can we do the one, the varied one? Can we do the varied one, the duration one? All right. And because we're now in film, we're instead of doing a hop and a clap, we're going to do camera rolls.
And you'll tell me what I'm doing.
And I will give you an action and a cut.
Okay.
And the really super important for everybody in this room and all the students that are going to go coming to film, because this is the first thing that theater folks forget, is you do not start acting till action and you do not stop acting till cut.
Okay. And in terms of which take are you doing? Let's go with the funky duration. Yes?
Yeah.
The mixed.
The mixed bag.
In your own time, action. And cut.
That's the first film work you've ever done?
I've like done some stuff but not like really.
Yeah, hi, Ed.
Like, yeah, no, this intimidates me, the film stuff, yeah.
Well,
So
what's changed the story for you guys watching? Like, what, you know, you guys looked at it live and then you looked at it on camera or on screen. What changed for you story-wise? Yeah.
She was affected by something huge. Like when she very slowly started taking off her glasses, she was witnessing something like intense, dramatic, very personal.
Yeah. I think this is one of the things that the assumption is always that you know, we're in this world, we're in this world. But the truth is, the second that you see something on the screen, this is just something to think about. In terms of physical and local dynamics, the architecture of what's around becomes the character that you immediately like put something on. And so one of the number one things we see theater people doing is they try to do the heavy lift of what's not on screen. They're trying to show me what is over there, or like, oh, that's Hamlet's ghost. In some ways, like, assume that we are with Hamlet's ghost, you know what I mean? Like, we will carry Hamlet's ghost for you in that moment. You do not need to do that heavy lift for us. And it's one of the hardest transitions for theatrical into film for young acting students. What else? Any other? You know, sort of,
When we were watching it like theater, I felt like you were seeing something, and in this one, I felt like you lost sight of something in that slow moment.
yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just over here.
Yeah.
Just the fantastic, like, optical illusion of the
That was so cool.
Oh, the optical illusion of the. Oh, you didn't see it.
Yeah, no,
Of
you're
the-
oh, it reflected.
And it, no, and it magnified,
Or
or the opposite.
miniature.
Yeah. So we had like an additional lens.
But that's such a beautiful example. That's a happy accident. But if you had done it quickly, we never would have learned about the potential of that. So that's also a reason to go slow on camera. That has nothing to do with service of story and everything to do with like cool effect that could have to do with tone, genre, whatever.
And I think it's really, I want to point something out because this is, you know, when people go up on lines, it's probably the most obvious example of it. But this is another one of the hardest things to sort of the transition from theater to film in physical and visual dynamics that I talk to my students about all the time is in that moment, you might have had a moment of self-awareness of like, oh, weird, sorry, and you would have stopped and been like, sorry, are my glasses doing something weird to the lens? You know, which is completely unusable as a director and literally like the worst possible thing you can do on a film set. You know, save for a safety issue, you never cut yourself. And so the number one time you see it is, like I was working on a scene where a student spilled a glass of water, this pretty recently, and the other person started cleaning it up and they kept doing the scene and it was so brilliant until the other actor was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Thor, that I did that with water. And I was like, oh God, no! I just want to point out because it's one of those places where, you know, in a theatrical environment, that is much more a part of the rehearsal process where it's not part of the film process. Can you try to do it almost like, don't worry about imitating what you just did, but can you kind of do it very similarly?
Where is my focus for this?
Same place that I was there. And similarly in terms of.
Just try to.
Did you see me? I see you,
Yeah. As soon as these go off, I will.
Okay, that's okay, but you get a sense.
Yeah.
Your camera speeds. Shooting in your own time. Cut. What changed story-wise?
It did not break my mouth at all.
It didn't have the same emotional effect as it
Yeah,
did
why?
the first time. The way the pan did around, it just, it almost sounded like she was waiting for something. Like maybe she was waiting for an appointment or waiting for the train to come, as opposed to like, it had that emotional impact when it was straight on and still before. Like it had like something catastrophic almost happened to her before, whereas now it's almost just like she was waiting for something.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Or where does anybody think that is?
I felt your pain with him being so close, so I wonder if like the duration, you seemed to go faster than you did when you were a little farther. So I was like, I wonder if she's stressed, yeah.
Which was more dramatic?
First person, yeah.
Behind you.
I was just gonna say with the panning, it seemed to take away the personalness of it, and it seemed to like insinuate that it's gonna go on pan to the next person, and there's some group kind of thing going on.
100%. So one of the things I want to point out is there's a wide lens, there's wide lenses and long lenses, and we do not have enough time to get into something, but one thing to think about is when you're on a long lens,
And you can do this on your iPhone, and your students can do it, and if you're filming monologues for them in terms of audition, Shakespeare, getting into high school, whatever, it's important to know in terms of kind of like upping the game and creating differentiation because, you know, people are watching a million of these.
Can you look straight into the lens for me, please? So a long lens is what will have a higher millimeter, and basically what you're taking a thinner slice out of life. Right? So you'll actually notice that your face will look flatter here. If I go on a wide lens, what changes about the face? Even though that's a relatively similar sized extreme close-up, what changes about the face? It's longer?
Yeah,
What's longer?
It takes up one dimension.
I heard somebody say
Okay, everybody look at this.
One dimension.
Yeah.
And close your eyes, everybody.
There you go.
No, that'd be Oh, did I just lose my... visible? No. And open again. It's flatter, right? When you're in a wide lens, it looks like you're looking through a peephole. But wide lenses are often used when you're using action shots, especially has anybody seen The Revenant?
Yes.
They basically had a camera like this on a wide lens in Leo's face the entire time. You'll have a little bit more of an action, you'll feel the world around, but it won't feel as personal, and oftentimes it won't feel as dramatic. Because there's something about the activeness, which feels like that person is being watched, that we're sort of, you're moving on to the next person, right? There's something that not dehumanizes, but sort of decontextualizes the story. When we're in a long lens, looking in, we're peeping into someone's private moment. And that's just something that it's like a chicken or the egg question, right? How we learned that because of what these cameras and how they're being used. But the reason I'm bringing it up is I want you guys, with your students, ask them what assumptions are they making about the framing, about the lens, you know? And again, on an iPhone, to go from a wide lens to a long lens is just by going like that, you know, going like that. It's the same.
What is it on the phone? Is it 0.5 versus?
0.5, I think they go up to 16 now, right? You know what I mean? But it's essentially exactly the same technology. I just can't project it onto the TV. Otherwise, I would use an iPhone. So, and if you want to be able to project the iPhone on the TV, you just have to have an Apple TV. We can get into the technicality and all that. But I think it's really important, as you're working in these physical and local dynamics, you know, to remember that this is the actual architecture, you know what I mean, of the storytelling. So the same, that you have control over the duration as an actor, you have the control over a lot of these elements, but really what it boils down to is how you're capturing it. That has to be taken to an assumption. And that's also something that I think the young actors of today, and this is what new media does here, like this is something that they're going to be being asked to do more and more. Not to just audition and arrive on set, to be creatives, to be like creators. So to give them these tools, it's sort of a foundational place to start storytelling in these moments, if that makes sense.
I can invite you, because we have a few more minutes, to take out your phones and use your camera. Grab a partner and actually play with the movement you just made.
In terms of closeness, distance, lens size, but also
Are you in portrait mode, or are you like do you usually go to portrait mode, or do you sort of
and also you can be above, you can also be below. How does that change things?
So you can select a partner and just start, one of you can film and one of you can do your movement. 0.5 is the wide lens.
5.5 is wide.
Is like mine is a lot more
concepts come up. And just things that will be brought back to the classroom, which is always like heartwarming and encouraging. Just as a way to wrap up, right? There's so many different ways that we could be using simple tools. Do you have all these? You already know all of this, right? So in a cultivated way on how you deliver it and put it all together. Probably the most challenging part is this. And so I encourage you to actually take some time and play. This is just one more storytelling tool that you already know is in the mix. Yes? Any takeaways or questions you want to leave us with before we let you go? Or ahas?
Playing with tempo it's just always nice to get that refresher, like what an impact just slowing something down or speeding something up can make on a tiny moment, like a small gesture.
And also you can practice less is more, especially with the transition to film, because as you said, I love that idea that sometimes we're trying to project so much, like, you know, who's in the other room, and we force it. And just a lot of times those small movements, even at the actor didn't intend, you know, the camera picks it up. So I just love that idea of just, you know, promote subtlety and just this idea of relaxing it. And so even the breath exercise is just being still. And but there's still plenty of movement, so I like that contrast.
One thing on that, someone from the last class asked like this question of less is more. And I said, you know, one of the things, especially with some of our students, we get to the moment of like, dial it down, less is more. And then you get this moment though where they go too far and they die behind the eyes.
Yes.
And then that's where this really interesting question of, especially in physical and local dynamics that both Sara and I talk a lot about is like, you know, if you're having trouble getting there, what happens if you move the camera 2 inches up and you put them on their tiptoes? And then you ask them to stay there for a minute. All of a sudden, their calves start to burn a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, I want you to do exactly what you just did. You know, it's a tiny little biohack. Just that little bit of burning in their calves, they start delivering the piece, and all of a sudden tears start pouring out. And so I agree with you 100%, but sometimes it's just a tiny bit of adjustment that's off camera that can be really interesting. And that's one of those places where theatrical training and theatrical technique can really be applied to film.
I teach middle school, so I just want to say, like, I really appreciate the vulnerability and the awareness of the body, and also just, you know, you were chosen and you're like, oh no, but the idea that everyone is going to have this experience of feeling vulnerable or different or out of body, and I think that's really special to remind, you know, especially middle schoolers, like, that's cool, that's part of it, like, there's no pressure behind it, like, we weren't like, what is your story right now? Let's find it together, and let's find a way that it feels vulnerable and authentic, and I think that's really something cool to remind.
And I think, I mean, like, super kudos to you for going through that so quickly, but I do think it's worth having a conversation with young students about, you are right there, that is an image of you. And they are not one and the same, yes? This is being captured, you're gonna go on with your life. So that you are practicing a certain amount of objectivity in watching a performance, and it takes time. But by the end of the semester, it's like, I mean, I say, I'm not watching myself, I'm watching an actress named Sara Buffamanti up there. Like, it is about what I have put in that frame in that moment and not my self-worth, which, like, is a difficult lesson to learn, but there is something about the difference between the image and the person.
And one exercise that I do often is I'll have you write what you're doing, like what's your story, and then everybody else write what they think the story is, and it's like telephone, you know what I mean? And then just immediately everyone's like, oh, I'm not that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the audience is creating the story, so it takes it out of a moment of self-consciousness.
Especially if you have social emotional students, right? That you've learned social emotional parts of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Some of like what you want to happen for your students.
And with that, then it's about the adjustment and not the like success or failure. In that moment, it's, oh, that was what you intended for your story. Well, this is what we've got. Now what are you going to change in order to get to that?
Because there is power in changing.
Yeah.
You do have the option, the choice to change. That's one.
I realized that breathing through the mouth really brings you to the present moment.